welcome to What's Hot Between the Covers. Today we are really honored. We have a talented, wonderful artist, Morton Levin. There he is, and he has created an exciting book. It's called A Fantasy of Beasts Revealed in Great Art. And this is the book, and we're going to talk about how Morton got into being a painter, why he is an artist, and why he wrote this, why he created this book, because he didn't just write it, he drew it. So Morty, do you want to start off by telling us when you knew you were an artist?
I knew when I was an artist when I was 5 years old, because when I was 5 years old, I began to draw. I had a fever in my stomach to draw.
Right.
And I began to draw, and people began to look at me, you know, teachers, friends, parents, everybody.
Tell me where you
they
were.
said, this kid is a prodigy, a genius.
And he
so I
is.
said, congratulations. But then people asked me, well, what do you want to do for a living? And
When
I
you were
said,
5?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you know, well, when I said I wanted to become an artist, eventually I'll be an artist. You know, they ask kids, what would you like to be when you grow up?
That's right.
Oh, I'd like to be an artist. Well, artists don't earn much money. Right. I said, I don't give a damn.
That's right.
I don't know if I said that when I was 5 years old,
But you thought
I
it.
probably said, I don't give a shit. But I said, I love to draw. They said, well, become something else. No, I'm going to draw. So I continued to draw, and the more I drew, the better I got, and then people began to encourage me. My uncle took me to the Metropolitan Museum when I was about 6 or 7.
Let's tell them that this was in New York.
Oh,
They don't
absolutely.
know. Okay. And you went to the Modern Museum. You went to the Metropolitan.
Not the Modern Museum, the Metropolitan Museum. I was only interested in the masters. And you know, you may think that, how would I know about the masters? Well, I came from a family that was pretty cultured, actually. We were very poor, but we were cultured. And my father came from a family of 8 brothers who were all, no, a couple of them were musicians and so forth. And so they were very interested in culture and art and music. And so I was exposed to it. And there were books around with reproductions of the paintings. And I said, wow, these are great. You know, I'm going to do that. And one of my uncles said, well, maybe, you know, you can become one of the great artists. I said, I'm going to become the greatest.
Oh.
I had a ridiculous ambition.
No, it isn't
Little
ridiculous.
did I realize that it isn't that easy.
So tell us a little bit about how it isn't that easy. Did you go to school? Did you train at all, or are you self-taught?
No, well, I'm mostly self-taught, but I did go to school. I mean, I went to elementary school and high school, and when I was in high school, I was singled out as a prodigy. I mean, I can't help saying it. I hate to say it because I look so immodest, you know, but it's true. So they put me in a special class, you know, for advanced students, and I had a wonderful mentor who was an artist, and he was a director of an art department in the University of New York. So he took me under his wing, you know, and began, you know, I was his protege.
And your family encouraged this. They didn't say you got to go out and deliver newspapers, or you got to go out and sell at the delicatessen.
No, I have a couple of siblings, you see, and my family encouraged it to the point when there was some kind of something to do, like, who's going to dry the dishes? My mother would say, well, Morty is occupied, he's drawing. So she'd say to my brother, you dry, well, why should I dry the dishes? Well, he's the occupied,
artist.
He's drawing.
So your family encouraged that?
Absolutely.
And supported it.
Yeah.
That's very different. And at the time, am I allowed to tell them when this was?
No, I'll tell them.
All right, you tell them when it was.
Well, why should you tell them?
You tell them.
No, this was in the depths of the Depression.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's very unusual for a family to encourage their son to do something that didn't look like it was going to be lucrative.
They weren't sure that I was going to do that as a living, you know, because, oh, he can do that as a hobby. I said, oh, yeah, that's what you think.
Yeah,
But
right.
because I would do it all the time. And so by the time interesting, by the time I was not, my father encouraged me, and he bought me a little oil painting set when I was about 7 or 8. You know, it had little tubes.
Oh, I just love this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It had little tubes. And so I started smearing around with this stuff.
Uh-huh.
And by the time I was 9, I did a marvelous painting.
Oh, it was
my
the one I
first
saw?
oil painting. The one you saw. The
It's
one that's on
wonderful.
exhibit.
It's absolutely wonderful. Tell them where they can see it. They can see it in the gallery at 414 Mason.
Right, 414 Mason, right near Geary.
Winston Gallery.
Winston Gallery,
Up
and
on
it's
the
Suite 704. And you can come up there and see. No, I'd rather you look at the other paintings
Oh,
that
but you
I've
got to
done.
see the one he painted when he was 9. It's wonderful. So talk about that. What happened with that painting? Your family framed it, or did you just? What did you do with all your artwork? You didn't just throw it out.
Oh, I
You
still
kept it.
have it. As a matter of fact, I can tell you a funny story.
All right.
I still have the envelope. Oh, did I throw out that envelope? I had a big envelope in which I threw all the drawings that I did when I was 6 and 7 and 8. And on the outside of the envelope, I wrote Art Darings. I didn't know how to spell drawing. I was about 6 years old, so I D-A-R-I-N-G. Art Darings, you know, I wrote. You know. So,
And this was in New York,
yeah.
because we said. And you did you start selling, or did you just paint?
No, I didn't sell. I mean, everybody took something from
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
my grandfather posed for me, and I did a portrait of him. So you know what happened? He was an artist. He was one of those so-called artists, because in those days, they didn't have color photographs the way they have today. So people would have a wedding, and they'd hire a photographer with a black cloth. You know?
That's right, with the black.
And
thing
he'd
over
take a picture of them. And my grandfather used to airbrush color on it. So the problem is, he used to love to do that so much that he'd make a painting out of it. And the joke of the family was he'd usually lose a little bit of the likeness.
Yeah.
So when I made a drawing of him, you know what he did? He used to paint as
Over
a
it?
hobby too, you know. He didn't only do airbrush, but he used to do landscapes and stuff like that.
So this was in your family.
Oh yeah. Well, that's right.
But that's very unusual, because I come from a Jewish family from the Depression too. They didn't paint. They plastered walls, and my mom was a butcher.
My family was, as I mentioned before, they were musicians. One of my uncles was playing for the Philharmonic Orchestra in New York, and, you know, wasn't making much money, but he became a bohemian. I can tell you stories about him too, because he knew artists in Greenwich Village. And so he introduced me to famous artists when I was about 8 or 9 or 10 years old. But to get back to my grandfather, now when my grandfather saw the portrait I did of him, he had a big set of oil paints with big tubes.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what? Just as, what the hell was his name? Leonardo da Vinci's master, when he saw Leonardo.
De Medici.
Huh?
De Medici, the Duke.
No. That was
wasn't
his patron. I'm talking about he studied as an apprentice under a master. Leonardo da Vinci studied under Perugino, I think it was,
Okay.
Perugino. But don't quote me, because I'm not sure. These Italian names sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
So when he did an angel in one of Gino's paintings, Perugino said, the guy's better than I am, so he better take over. Well, that's what my grandfather said about me. So he gave me his oil painting set, and I looked at it and I said, hey, I'm not going to use this stuff. He said, why not? I said, it's made in Germany, Schminke, Germany, the Nazis. He said, but I bought it in 1915 or 19...
Yeah, Hitler wasn't there, and Schminke is a marvelous brand. It's marvelous.
Yeah,
oil.
but they were making paints during Hitler's regime
They
too.
were making guns, so you you wouldn't use the schminke?
No, I used it when I was
Marvelous
told
paint.
that it was purchased before
Before
the Hitler
Nazis.
regime. You know, it was
Yeah.
purchased, I don't know, 1920 something. So he gave me these oil paints. Wow, big set. So then I have a million stories. I can't
I
tell
want
you
you
those
to
stories.
tell
No,
me some.
no, because I'll save some of them. But
But when
Where
did you
were
get
we?
color? Because you were always sketching, you were drawing. And oil painting is different from drawing, is it
I was
not?
doing more than oil painting. I was doing pastels too.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, because I went to the Metropolitan Museum, I did a lot of copying of the masters because I said to myself, well, in order to become as good as these guys, I better
That's right.
get more discipline in my work and start. So I would copy them, not with the idea that I'm going to do things just like them, but I want to master the craft of
Right,
of
to
painting.
see how they did it.
So I did that, and I used pastels most. So I got a big pastel set.
Now, who bought that for you?
I had uncles and
Aunts,
they
yeah.
all came together. And we were so poor that my father lost his job. We were on, I don't know what they called
Welfare?
it. Those, well, they didn't call
They
it
didn't call it
welfare then,
welfare.
but we got sort of food stamps and got canned goods, you know. But a couple of my uncles they had jobs. One was an insurance man. And
In
so
the
he used-
Depression? In the Depression?
yeah.
They sold insurance?
He worked for the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company.
Right,
So
right.
he happened to be good, you know, and so he used to come over to the house and say, take me aside and say, hey, Morty, here's $5. If you need art materials, don't tell your mother. But of course I would tell my mother, and she'd say, why did you accept that? You know, she had a lot of pride, you know. So I said, well, I need some materials.
Oh, but that's so great. So
Yeah.
they all encouraged you.
Yeah. I'm telling you, when they saw what I was doing, they said, never saw anything like that. Like you said, the painting.
Oh, when you see the paintings at that gallery, you won't believe what he does. You just won't believe it. It's the most exciting work. But now, when you were in high school, now when you graduated from high school, did you go to college? Or did you spend any time in Paris? Tell me, did you do anything?
Wait a minute. You're getting ahead of the story.
I'm getting ahead of the story, okay.
Yeah. So by the time I got into college, I went in first year, and that was about 1940, something like that. And so I spent the year there, and then Pearl Harbor happened.
1941, that's right.
1941, they bombed Pearl Harbor, and I was, wait a minute, 1941. I wasn't 18 yet, I don't think.
You were
Was
that
I?
young.
Well, no, I was 18. Because when I was 18, I enlisted.
So you fought in World War II?
Are you kidding?
I don't know.
Well, I enlisted. And because I was an artist, they said, okay, we'll put you in a camouflage division. So I said, all right, that's okay. But, you know, who the hell did camoufage in World War II?
I don't know.
There was no camouflage.
So
Well,
what did you
anyway,
do? What did you
so
draw?
finally, for a while, first I took basic training and became a sharpshooter, marksman. I had a good eye then. I didn't even have to wear glasses, you know. Better than 20/20. So I made you know, what the hell did they call it? Sharpshooter, something.
Yeah.
They gave me a big badge there. And so because they said, well, we need replacements in the infantry, so they sent me to the infantry.
So you were in the infantry?
Yeah. So in 1943, they sent me over to England, preparing for the invasion of France.
Right.
Well, you
Was that
know.
Normandy? Was that it?
Wait a minute. You know, France was conquered,
Right.
and Churchill, my hero, said, what General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
Yeah.
The whole might and fury of the enemy must very soon be turned on us. Hitler knows he must break us in this.
This battle.
No, he must break us in this kingdom or lose the war. Therefore, let us brace ourselves to our duty and so bear ourselves so that if the British nation lasts for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm in Britain there, and we're, oh God, we
And it was
were
a
on
mess.
maneuvers and training for that invasion.
Finest hour.
I mean, I didn't look the way I look now. I was a big guy, you know, I'm powerful. You shrink as you get older.
I know.
You know that, right?
I've done that, yeah.
I was an athlete, and I was strong. So they put me in the infantry, and I was in the invasion of Normandy.
Ah,
Yeah. So we invaded. Well, you don't want to hear about the war now,
well,
do
no,
you?
but I want to hear about being an artist. I like that. We like hearing about all this.
Yeah, well, I made sketches while I was in the...
And you were making sketches. Did you save those sketches?
Sure.
How did you get them home?
I used to fold them up and put them in an envelope and send them home.
And your parents saved them.
Well, are you kidding me? They're beautiful.
Of course they're beautiful, but they saved them.
Yeah.
And what did you draw with them? With pencil? Or?
I pencil, yeah. I had about 2 or 3 colored pencils and a fountain pen and a Bible, although I wasn't that religious, but I had a Bible because it protects you. You know, I had it in my top pocket. I had 2 grenades hanging over it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you hung your grenades on your lapel. But, you know, I figured, you know, it's a thick, it was a little
Bible.
pocket. Yeah, it was a beautiful little thing that I bought in England before the invasion.
Oh,
So,
and you drew that whole time while you were, and when you had spare time. It must have
Well-
been a terrible time, though.
it was a terrible time, but, you know, there are intervals where you just wait. You know, you're not constantly in a battle. You wait, you know, then all of a sudden they wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. All right, men, we're jumping off. This
Oh,
is
my
it,
God.
you know, and you're going out again. So it would be called the approach march. You're approaching, you know, the battle.
Right.
All right. But we don't want to go into that. That's a whole different program.
But when you when you came back from the war, what happened?
Now so I was lucky, very, very lucky. You really have to be lucky.
Okay.
Because I was in the 8th Infantry Division, and that 8th Infantry Division had a 300% turnover, which means that let's say, for every man that was in there, he was replaced 3 times.
That means the others
on the
died?
On the average, there were some guys like me that were in. But, you know, you're in a squad of, let's say, 12 men, and there's maybe 2 or 3 that last, but the rest are replaced. And so 300 times as many, 300% of men were used in that outfit to get to the end of the war, to show you that there were that many casualties.
And they died, yeah.
Well, not all of them. Some of them were casualties and sent home, you know, no legs, 1 leg.
God.
But after the war, because I was in the Battle of Normandy, then northern France, and then Germany, right through to the eastern part of Germany when we met the Russians.
You were in all those.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last place in Germany we were in were Schwerin. But because we had so many points, they gave you points for the amount of
Battles.
service you did, and the
Yeah,
battles and everything. We went back home, the first ones, because they told us, well, you're going back home because you're going to go to Japan, you know, in the Battle of Japan.
you're gonna go to
Now,
Japan after?
Yeah, because Japan is still fighting, you know.
Right. Don't tell me you went to Japan, too.
No, went to Missouri to...
That's not Japan.
No. to Fort Leonard Wood to train
I know
for the
Fort Leonard
Japanese,
Wood.
for the invasion of Japan. And boy, were we lucky and happy when I was home on a furlough before we were going to go.
And they dropped the atom bomb.
Dropped atomic bomb.
I remember how happy we all were. It sounds so horrible, but we were. But let's talk about After the war? what
After
kind
the
of art-
war, so when I came home, right after the atomic bomb dropped, and then about a couple of months later, I was deactivated, sent home, and so I did 5 lithographs, which you could see, because one of them is in the New York Public Library. You know, it was purchased by these different places. 5 lithographs about the war. You know, my memories of the war.
Right.
Those are I have in the gallery now that I can show you. You know, they're in a portfolio.
Uh-huh.
So, and then I hung around in New York for a couple of years because I wanted to finish my education. So I got my degree in the University of New York, which is called the University of New York now. And then I went to Paris to paint because I had a GI Bill. I said, okay, go to Paris.
Right.
So that's where I studied with André Lott, which was one of the big Cubist painters.
Uh-huh.
And I stayed there for, 3 years? But like an idiot, I got stuck with a woman there.
Well, that's what men do.
Yeah.
They
A
forget about the painting
Frenchie, a beautiful French, gorgeous girl, you know.
Uh-huh. Did you paint her?
I painted her.
And you did a few other things, yeah.
I did a lot with her, so much so that she got pregnant
That was a lot.
and got a kid there. And I said, oh, I have to go home. I have
Right.
to go home and support her now.
Right. So you went back to New York
Went back to New York with a family.
with a family, with the baby?
Well, we didn't leave the baby there.
No, you never know. Yeah, so you brought the baby, and then you came to New York and you were painting.
I was painting, but I had to get money.
Right.
So what the hell could I do?
I don't know. All you can do is paint.
No. So I said, well, I'll have to get a job in advertising. So
Of
I made a
course.
portfolio, see? And it was all my fine art drawings. Well, you know, I was going to show them I could draw.
Yeah.
But these guys, they would look at it and say, yeah, but can you do commercial art? You know,
A Coca-Cola
I said,
bottle.
look what I can do. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
do anything. Yeah, well, we need. So I finally found a guy that was looking for somebody. You know, I answered these ads, and he said, well, no, I don't think. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll work for you for a week, and if you think I haven't earned anything in that week, I said, don't pay me, and I'll leave. You know. So he said, well, I'll take a chance then. I said, that's big of you, you know, but that's all right. I'll do it. Well, at the end of the week, he paid me.
What did you have to do? You were drawing images for him.
No, we had to design ads, you know,
Right.
for perfumes. I don't know, a lot of crap.
Sal
A lot
Hepatica.
of crap. No, Revlon and stuff.
Revlon, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you were drawing.
Garbage, you know, but
And so
Real
you
drawing.
earned your living in an advertising agency for a while?
Yeah. Well, they were studios working for advertising agencies. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I worked there for several years.
What's
and
the-
I also painted on, you know.
At home.
I worked 15 hours a day, you know. Do that, and then I'd go home.
Because that's what you are. You're a painter. You're an
Yeah.
artist. Is it different today to be an artist than it was then?
It's terrible today.
Tell us about the difference in the quality.
Well, today there are no standards anymore, because if you go to the galleries, you can see what they're showing. These bastards, they don't have to know anything, see?
Tell us what you have to know.
Well, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Incidentally, I didn't do that advertising too long, see, just for several years, and then I decided to teach. So I would teach art, which was much better. And I would teach the disciplines, and this is what you have to know to answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
I taught the disciplines, which is the same thing as you have to learn if you're going to be a writer. You have to learn grammar. They're not going to teach you to be a writer. They're going to teach you the grammar of writing, right? if you don't have it in you to write, you're not going to write.
That's right.
Yeah. You won't be a Norman Mailer, but you have to know the grammar.
Right.
Well, in painting or in art, you have to know
the
the
grammar.
disciplines.
That's right.
And so I taught life drawing, anatomy, the perspective, the principles of color, of light. I mean, all these are sciences, actually.
And there are things you have to know, that's right. And I agree with you that very often you go into a gallery and it doesn't look like they knew what they were doing. They just look like they threw up all over the campus.
No. Even when they try to do something realistically or subject with a subject, you can see that they're faking, because the person that really has a basic understanding of, let's say, anatomy, he could distort, he could do anything he wants, but Picasso could do it. See?
Because you have
Picasso
to be
was
able
a
to first
wonderful
do it the right
draftsman.
way,
Right.
yes.
But he distorted, did whatever he wanted, but you could see he could do a hand that looks like a big claw, but you know he knew what was behind all
And
that.
he knew how to do a hand. But what I want to talk about here is, so when Morton decided to do this book, when he would look at the pictures of the masters, he would see more, because he had a trained eye, than most of us see when we look at a painting.
You know what I say? That artists are keen observers.
That's right. That's
And
right.
So they look very carefully.
So we only have 1 minute to talk about this book. So
Oh,
tell us
my
what happened.
God.
We'll have you back again. Because tell us what
I can
happened
tell
when you saw
all
this
a
Degas.
1,000 stories.
I know, so we'll have you back. Here's the
my
Degas.
God.
What happened when you saw the Degas?
Well, this book was actually almost an accident, because when I was looking at reproductions of these paintings, and I looked at a reproduction of a Degas, which featured a bunch of ballet dancers, I was staring at it, and all of a sudden I said, gee, I see a horse there. So I said, I know what I'll do. In order to show what I saw, I'll redraw that section of the painting, that detail, and I'll clarify the horse, show where I saw
And
the horse.
see that you, yes.
I'll show where I saw the illusion of a horse. And so
Now, I'm
I
going to
did that.
stop you now because you have 30 seconds. In this
30
book, which is a superb book, you will see all the things that Morton saw in the paintings of the great masters. And we'll have him back to talk about this book some other time, because the stories were fascinating. And thank you, my darling. This was one of the best programs I've ever done.
Well, thank you very much. I had a good time.
Did you have fun?
Well,
Yeah,
I
we'd
was
like to have
laughing
fun.
half the time.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
we wanted you to do that.
Oh,
So
yeah?
so now we know what it's like to be an artist. And thank you so much, Morton Levin. It was the best program we've ever had.